This is Beyond the Bench with Nick Morgasen and Nick Fodera. A look at sports and pop culture from beyond common sense. The show that constantly goes off the rails and might never get back on. When you don't belong, you're a bench warmer. On this show, there's no riding the bench. This is Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome back to Beyond the Bench. What are we, episode 18 now?
Yeah, I think so. I've lost count at this point. We're having too much fun.
Yeah, really. I mean, you didn't see it before. You won't see it. You might see it in a blooper reel after this. Someone's got to remember how to man the controls and fly this plane.
Oh, God.
Follow the show on social media, on Twitter at Beyond the Bench 1. Follow the show on Facebook, facebook.com/BeyondTheBench1. And follow the podcast on social media at ETB Network.
So he's Nick Morgasen. I'm Nick Fodera. But we're not alone this week. Oh,
Well,
no.
We'll get to that in a moment. But first, Nick, how was your week?
I'm trying to think of a better way to describe it than shit Sunday.
Well, okay, that's an interesting way. Just don't put a cherry on top of it. Anyway.
Don't ask what the cherry is.
No, we might be talking about popping cherries instead.
Oh, God.
Anyway, big show. We have a lot to get to. We have a third person joining us this week. We have a major announcement to make for the podcast network as well. But without further ado, here we go. He's back, everybody. He's back. And I can't unmute him because he's muting himself.
Hi.
Kyle Hirshon is back, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Take a bow, Kyle.
No thanks. The floors are pretty dirty, so
Yeah.
And you know what? Just because I haven't done it to Kyle in a long time.
I'm done. Not even 20 seconds in.
Well, just so people understand, Kyle and I did a show for a while. When did the show start with us?
Oh man, I can't even remember. It's been probably more than a year at this point.
It was like towards the beginning of the pandemic, really.
I would think so, yeah.
I think it might have been somewhere around like February, March 2020.
Right. And we just had a lot of fun. The Nick and Kyle show was a fun show. We did a lot of things. We interviewed a lot of people. Then the pandemic happened, and Kyle and I were working a lot. And
Right.
like Rudy's mayoral and political career, it tanked.
Oh God.
Just so you know, the reason I bring that up is because there's a story that we're going to get to later. But we have an announcement to make. We'll make that a little bit later for why Kyle is here. Kyle just didn't show up randomly for the sake of showing up. So
Yeah, no, I showed up because I need some find some way to pay rent.
Look,
Well-
if you're gonna sell cookies, just sell the cookies. You don't have to give us the whole song and dance.
all I hope is that you don't become the next OnlyFans model.
I don't think anybody would want to see that out of anyone.
Just so you know, this is how Kyle and I did our show way back when. Like
Yep, pretty much.
him and I would say ridiculous things, and then he would just disappear.
I've seen it. Believe me, if you think this show is off the rails, no. That show lived there. It did.
So let's tackle one thing at a time. Where in the world was Kyle Hirshon?
I don't know. You tell me.
So basically, let's get into when our show ended, what happened?
At that point, I had taken a new point in my career. I began working in television in the capital district of New York, so I moved to Albany. And just like WABC, that was short-lived.
I mean, it was very short-lived.
As of the taping of this, I don't know. Are we live or is this?
No, we're taped.
No,
Okay.
we're
So as of this taping, I've been out since yesterday.
Oh, and basically, when Kyle told me that it was worse than WABC management, I said, wait a minute. One, I said that's not possible. And two, when he finally told me, which we won't get into the whole thing, but basically, when he told me the things that were going on, I said, okay, it's worse.
Oh,
Much.
Even telling me just the third hand, it sent chills up my spine, and that doesn't happen easily.
No, I mean, again, I'm just gonna make this pretty brief and blunt. The news industry is very stressful, but at least have management please take care of your talent.
Yeah, what people don't realize, and Nick knows this, he has a journal. Let's try that again. Let's try that word again. Journalism masters.
Right.
And basically, he knows all about the pressure of writing and getting things in. And we worked in radio. You've worked in TV. We worked in a very stressful market in Market One Radio, where basically 1,000% was not good enough, and political nonsense took over. And that's why we're not there anymore, and you're not where you are anymore. And let's just put it this way. It's time for a new adventure, right?
Yeah. Time for a new adventure out of all of us, I think.
I've spoken with other stations in the area, and so far, so good.
Well, it's good. You're on interviews, which is good.
I can't really reveal much, but something might be in the works.
Yay! Well, and there's something else in the works. There's something else in the works as well, but that's for later. So let's we'll move on from that. Now it's time to get into what Kyle has missed doing for the longest time, giving opinions on things.
Finally, Jesus.
So Nick and I have been talking about this what seems like the last two shows.
We have, because this news story doesn't seem to want to end, and there seems to be more twists involved. So where we last left it was we had just learned that how he had died, how Bob Saget had died, and that was apparently the injury was, according to the coroner's report, was worse than we had initially imagined, that anybody had initially imagined, and he'd taken a blow to the head. I think that was. They said it was analogous to like if a car accident.
Essentially, they said that it was possible that it was almost to the equation of falling like 30 feet or getting hit in the back of the head with a bat. Like it was
terrible, just awful. But what happens now, and where we can update you, is we can say that Bob Saget's family is suing, I think, the sheriff's department in.
They won. They got the injunction.
And like. Yeah, breaking news. They got the injunction. So that they will... there we go. So, yeah, they got the injunction, and the records related to the case will not be released. Now, the sheriff's department, I think, characterized the case as closed, so we won't be getting any more updates as far as things that we don't know about this case.
Well, Kyle, you and I have discussed legal things many times at the radio station. What should they be allowed to put out? We've seen many times where we thought stories should not be put out at the radio station. They were done anyway. Thoughts?
Well, when the initial reports on the cause of death came out, it's like, okay, autopsy reports are one thing. The medical reports, reports from the examiner. I mean, I thought those were standard, so I didn't think they'd have an issue with it, as pretty much anybody, who's a public figure, and then seeing this come up from the family, and then seeing the update on how severe the injury actually was. I spoke about this with a couple of friends this morning, and there are people that in my circle that believe that he may have been murdered.
Oh, wait a minute. There's one piece to the story, though. When they checked the records of going into the hotel room, they said there was nobody else besides him that entered.
Right. So it really can't be murder. My theory on how he may have died. If they said if the headboard's one thing, that's one thing. But what you said earlier about, the baseball bat, falling 30 feet, I feel like he probably may have slipped off the bathtub and hit his head on the side,
They said actually that, and some of the medical examiners were saying, sometimes it doesn't have to be the most hard of falls. You could just slip, and if you hit the right part of your head, you do damage.
It's like an egg in that fashion, where it will break not just in one place but several.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of horrifying if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible story. It's a tragic story. I'm kind of glad for the family's sake that they didn't release the records. I mean,
that's the thing, because you don't want there are certain things you don't want released. One of them being the pictures.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing that you do not want the internet to get a hold of, and that's dead celebrity pictures. There are too many of them. There are too many of them already, and that would be too tempting a weapon for the ghouls of the world. And I think we know who exactly I'm talking about in this situation to use against Saget and Saget's family. And you don't want to do that. But however, I think the lack of information is going to cause people to be more tinfoil hatty, more conspiratorial in their thinking than I think they would be otherwise.
Yeah.
Even though there probably isn't anything there.
No, and to be honest, I don't think there's enough grounds to maybe even call it, intentional, whatever. But yeah, as you said, this whole thing was tragic. This thing could have been prevented. This could have been a completely preventable death. And I just feel that, the way that the Saget family is handling the situation, the sheriff's department is handling the situation, it's really just a game of tug of war where alligators on both sides of the pit. No matter who manages to pull the others across, nobody wins.
Now, what's interesting, Nick and I talked about this when the original headlines came out, and all these, I don't know, what do you want to call them, Nick? Ones that purposely try to make headlines for no reason. Vultures were trying to say, oh, well, he had COVID before it, and he was positive, and then it had to do with this and that and that and that.
Anti-vax nut jobs, which, of course, encompass right-wing trolls and crunchy granola people.
Now, the whole problem I have, now, I don't know, Nick, out of the three of us, knows the journalism space the best, but why are you trying to encompass one with the other? One doesn't have to do with the other.
One doesn't have to do with the other, and correlation does not imply causation. I mean, it's an immutable law of the universe, but a lot of journalists don't follow it like they should, or they don't. Whether you want to get into things like either doing it on purpose or doing it unconsciously through bias, I think there is an impulse, if you will, to see a pattern where there is no pattern, because our brains are wired that way, and that's true of journalism. I mean, it's true of people, but it's especially true of journalism, because you're taught to look and see if you can find the patterns, because often, if things don't seem right, they often are not. If you're investigative journalism, well, depending on what you're investigating. I mean, if you're investigating the disappearance of the McRib from the McDonald's menu, there's not exactly anything conspiratorial.
Wait a minute.
Situations.
Wait a minute. I saw Kyle post about that. That's ironic that you brought that up.
You understand my point, though, gentlemen.
Yes, but what were you going to say, Kyle?
Someone who's worked directly in the field of journalism, as Nick said, there have been many people who wanted to use COVID as a speculatory thing. All of us in the newsroom thought that he may have croaked because of a heart attack, but as we saw in the reports, that wasn't the case. I was genuinely surprised because I never saw that coming. But the last thing you want to do is make speculatory content. Yes, it may attract more people, but what cost? Your integrity just dropped down the
You're
drain.
dealing with human beings here.
Yes. The last thing I want to do as a journalist is to speculate and to lie and leave that to TMZ, leave that to the National Enquirer, leave that to the fucking opinion sites.
Well, what's funny though
in
is
this situation, TMZ was
Well,
right.
that's
Yes, they were.
it's ironic because Nick and I have actually been giving credit to TMZ over the last couple of years during COVID
Because they've gone to places both ethically and actually physically,
and they're
that,
breaking stories before everybody else.
that other
Betty White's the
more-
best example.
that other more respectable outlets wouldn't go.
I mean, you have to remember when these dumb sites started, like the Perez Hiltons of the world, or the E News, E Online websites of the world, where all they do is come up with speculative stories, like the Kim Kardashians of the world, who are too busy right now dealing with Kanye, who won't leave her alone, and sending a truckload of roses to her house on Valentine's Day.
But now it's been democratized, where anybody with a Twitter account and a loud enough mouth can do it.
So it is what it is. I mean, fortunately, I don't know if that's the right word. It wasn't foul play, and it might have been just an unfortunate slip and knock on the head. But he's gone, and that's unfortunate.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
And that's the tragedy of it.
But speaking of knocks on the head, Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani has secret evidence on Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm going to let Nick go first on this one, just because Kyle and I have a little too much experience in this sector.
Okay, 10-1 that the evidence that he found was also located within the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. There is a good chance he had to mail away for it with 15 proofs of purchase, just like all the other cereal things. So, but I'm willing to guess that this evidence that he has is complete, utter, and total bullshit.
I think
Would I be correct in assuming that, gentlemen?
Yes.
I think bullshit would be an understatement.
Wait a minute. Kyle and I probably said bullshit more times when we were working with him.
Just making the jerk off motion just every time.
And
something.
I can tell one story because obviously it doesn't matter at this point. But do you remember, Kyle? You were there, and he walked in with the papers from the what's his name?
The Hunter Biden.
The Hunter Biden paper. And I remember going to Kyle, and I was horrified. You saw me being horrified.
Yes.
And I had to go verify these papers. He walked in with a stack the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah, I went in too. I saw what was on those papers.
And I'm like, can you prove this for a fact? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
what do you mean it's okay? If it's not fact, then you're lying to people.
I mean, I think we were at the point where Rudy really didn't care.
well,
No, he just he wanted Biden to lose.
So yeah, I mean that it's obvious in that respect, but I mean, it always comes back to Hillary Clinton, doesn't it? She has been the right wing punching bag for 35 fucking years.
Wait a minute.
It just won't stop.
My favorite, though, is, hey, Kyle, what TV network did he go on to reveal this information?
Newsmax.
Da-da-da! Right across from where our station was.
Didn't even go to Fox News. When Fox News doesn't want anything to do with you.
Well, it's not that
It comes a little self-reflection.
It's not like Fox News, Yeah, it's like what Nick was about to say. Rudy does not like Fox News, so he'd rather go on than even rightier.
Well,
network.
so far right, they don't even know what the word left means.
And
You're basically going in circles at that point.
So this story just gets weirder and weirder. And apparently he's quoted as saying, I happen to have it in my bedroom or my den, actually, he declared. I've had it there for years. Now, you and I, Kyle, have been through a lot of weird stories, including the hair dye, which I had to deal with. And then the press conference in front of the pawn shop.
Yep.
No, it wasn't. It was a landscaping.
That was a landscaping, yes.
Company.
Oh, but I thought
4 seasons of total landscaping.
4 seasons.
so. I've seen it all. I've seen everything. So has Kyle.
Perfect. You could put that in. You could put that in as the climax of a Coen Brothers movie. It's just that sublimely stupid.
I mean, go ahead.
yeah.
Kyle. Go ahead.
And also, I was there for the Borat thing.
So was I.
Wow.
I had to deal with it. That was at the old studios.
All right. Before we go off on a quick tangent, I'll just make this quick. Management told us, don't talk anything about Borat. Because it was in the beginning of this lawsuit that was about going on between, I think, him and Sacha Baron Cohen and the production company.
Yep.
So he gets there. We don't say a word. He gets ready to go. He puts on his headphones. He gets, begins to talk. This is the Telling the Truth show on 77 WABC.
Uncovering the truth.
Whatever. I never
uncovering the truth on 77 WABC.
I never put my hand in my pants during that scene from Bart. Like, no, you're gonna get us killed.
Well, I gotta. I don't want to go into it. That's a whole different issue I was gonna bring up. But long story short, when that happened, I'll never forget. This was in the old studios, and I'm sitting there running the board. They allowed me to actually run the board for his show during the week. Lucky me.
Which I think is just them putting their hands up and going, you deal with it.
And my favorite was. No, my favorite part was when he was remote, which he was a lot.
Yes.
You always knew it was 5 o'clock somewhere. People, that's a lot of that's inside baseball. Basically, you heard a rocks glass.
The big A. The big A.
No,
big A.
No, we heard it. Kyle and I can attest we heard the rocks glass in the background.
Remember the big A, though. We don't want to be held liable for anything.
Oh, come on. But basically, it was a nightmare. That's the best way I can describe it without being mean.
It was a big PR nightmare, a big on-air nightmare. It was just blech. So about this new piece of evidence from Clinton or whatever, John Durham report. So apparently, this article says that Giuliani has 1,000 pieces of evidence that nobody's seen yet. Bedroom in the den, had it for years. I'm like,
and it's basically just a single sheet of paper with the words "she did it" on top of it.
She did it. Yeah, and you know what, Rudy? Nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit anymore.
And you know what?
Yeah, that's the funny part about it, though. She's not holding any political office.
No.
And my favorite part is, so we were talking about elephants earlier, and since he is a clown, I think this is perfect time for something else. Welcome, everybody, to the circus that is Rudy Giuliani.
It's the circus that never ends because it's the circus.
It's a circus that never ends because it's this fucking circus.
The problem is Rudy has to clean out the shit in the elephant cages.
Are you kidding? He is the shit in the elephant cages.
And the difference is at least PETA is not going to them.
Long story short, if you ever see headlines that say Rudy has evidence he wants to reveal, I would run far away as fast as you possibly can.
If he's got evidence saying that the grass is green, doubt it.
No, if he says the grass is green, then you should assume it's red or purple.
Yes, assume it's red, purple, or blue.
There's no love lost with Rudy Giuliani. And speaking of love lost, Nick Cannon drops new song on Mariah Carey.
Now, strangely enough, Kyle, we have also been tracking this story for a couple of weeks because, like Nick Cannon's nether regions, they don't seem to take a rest. So,
well,
being the case,
I said last week that I lost track after 1 million kids.
I mean, I did think I compared him to a character from the Bible. So it's got to be. I mean, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, he's just. You know what? At least he's not Kanye. At least he's not having
God.
At least he's not having a full scale Kanye style meltdown.
God, I mean, Kyle, I don't know what to say here. Just Nick Cannon, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it says it says that the song samples "Love Takes Time" from Mariah's self-titled album, and the lyrics go, first off, I'm gonna say I ain't got nothing but love for you, nothing but love. I'm gonna stay away. I ain't trying to fuck it up for you. I keep my distance, stay in my lane, because I know you got a man. It's a little too late. Yeah, if it's not really about Mariah, then I don't know what the hell it is.
Okay, first of all, I would pay a significant amount of money just to watch. I would pay a significant amount of money just to listen to him just read off rap lyrics, just verbatim.
First of all, no one wants Nick Cannon music. Can we just admit that now?
People did, but unfortunately, this is not the year 2009.
Actually, I don't know. It's not really funny. I met Nick Cannon at our former employment, actually. And because do you remember the whole incident he had with the racist comments on the podcast?
Yeah,
about what was it about Jewish people? And
yeah, it was about Jewish people.
And so I'll never forget. Now you know John Batchelor. That's it's synonymous. Everyone knew who John was in the radio business. I shouldn't say. Sound like I'm killing him. I'm not. Anyway, so I walk in one day and I'm told, do you know who Nick Cannon is? From John. And it's like, yeah.
Which is him trying to ask, do you know who he is? Because I don't.
And I'm like, yeah, that was my childhood in the 90s. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, he's coming in to do a full hour to talk about the whole incident. Huh? So, long story short, because Kyle knows this, I was running back and forth between running local and helping John's syndicated show because there was never a dull moment in that place.
There never seems to be.
So all of a sudden, John brings him over into the studio where I'm working. And I'm like, huh? Like you had one of those moments.
Yeah.
And then so I got to listen back to it afterwards. They literally did a whole I don't know the best word, philosophical conversation.
Like a point-by-point refutation of everything. I'm not an anti-Semite because A, B, C, and D.
Essentially. And I was like, wow. I mean, he knows how to talk. I'll give him credit on that front. He knows how to.
Right.
But I was just like, I'm surprised they got him into John's show of all places. Do it! Yeah! That's another inside joke, Nick.
I mean, I really am surprised that he didn't end up as basically going full anti-cancel culture and doing videos for PragerU or some shit.
I mean,
and you know what? I saw this too. I saw this just before we came on here. Papa John.
Yes, John Schaefer. Yeah,
he's going to CPAC. He's going to CPAC as a speaker.
He already had.
You fuck pizza.
He did.
You gotta make politics worse.
Him and what's his name from Pawn Stars? Rick Harrison. He's done it for years. Yeah, Rick Harrison's done it for years. Rick Harrison's been a guest, and you know this too, on the Mark Levin show many times.
They are all. You know what I've learned. The 5 year, almost 6 years that I've known Nick Morgasen, I've realized one thing, and this is, I would imagine, is probably true for you too, Kyle.
Yeah.
The right-wing ecosystem, the ecosystem of right-wing loudmouths, are basically just they want to be famous.
Yes,
They want to be famous. They want to be they want to be respected. They want to be worshipped anywhere they go. And any feedback from the culture that is less than fawning, or anything that even says you suck, anything that bruises their fragile little egos, they can't take it.
I mean, come on. I mean, we worked in a place where They finally gave up on making money. All they cared about is their points of view.
Am I correct? But am I correct in assuming?
Yes, 1,000%. Like Kyle and I used to walk in every day. We're like, "Oh, what trouble are we going to get into? That's not our fault today."
Yeah, no, it was horrible.
But we'll move on to part 2 of the Nick Cannon story. Nick Cannon returns to New York City radio via syndication.
Now, what exactly is he going to be doing?
So he has his show, Nick Cannon Radio. You know, Kyle, I think one of the places you were looking at possibly applying to was to work for his TV show.
Yeah, the Nick Cannon show, yes.
And I think that's on Fox syndication for the most of it. And so he got picked up by the new station here in New York, 94.7 The Block.
Right.
So 94.7 The Block took over, obviously, for the New York country station, which was originally Nash, which was in the original cluster that we worked in for Cumulus.
Which really upset certain members of my family because they were big fans of that station, believe it or not.
And it's funny that comes up because that's going to be our interview later, actually, with Jesse Addy, who was a former host of that station.
But of all the poaching of radio, of all the nut jobs that work in New York City radio, Nick Cannon, I'll take it. At least he's not openly crazy.
Nick Cannon actually was a local radio host back in, I think, 2010 to 2012 on 92.3 now. So he's already got experience. But here's the problem. And Kyle, you might know who this is. I spoke to Dana Parisi, MJ from MJ Psych and MJ when they were together on BLI here in Long Island.
Yeah, that was about 2-3 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, and she said there are a few things that are killing local radio. One is syndication, one is celebrities, and one is clout.
Yeah.
He's not. There are worse people I could think of to shove a mic in front of than Nick Cannon. There's Casey Kasem right at the top, and then there's Mark McGrath right here, and then Nick Cannon's somewhere in that. But non-crazy radio hosts, I think are very, very welcome.
Go ahead, Kyle.
It's just me. I don't work in radio.
I agree. At least Nick has some sort of experience in this business. We can only hope that he does well, and
it is what it is. Now, as I said before earlier, syndication is going to kill the radio business locally, and eventually we're going to get to a point where every slot, even in New York radio, is going to become syndication. We just know that for a fact because there's no money in it.
Yeah, cryptocurrency and NFTs are going to be sponsoring 1010 wins.
Breaking news. Nobody gives a shit.
Well, no, Nick loves it because on all the shows I talk about cryptocurrency and NFTs and all that stuff. But
which is basically the same to me as Monopoly money.
Yeah.
But
that's all it is.
So I like Nick Cannon. I used to listen in the mornings when I used to go to high school, which is a very long time ago from now and makes me feel old. But anyway, I think it's good. The block needs a new personality. That station frequency needs new personalities. And hopefully radio doesn't die, but I think with podcasting and all that stuff, it's unfortunately going to die. But
just ignore the burning in the background.
Well, Nick, I'm glad you went there because speaking of burning, Jeff Zucker's girlfriend goes scorched earth and quits CNN.
Oh my gosh.
So I think we may have inadvertently stumbled on the only thing that's actually worse than political radio. Political television. Now, I've actually had the fortune or misfortune, depending on who you talk to, of visiting the CNN studios in Midtown.
Wait, you did?
Yeah, I did. I didn't tell you? Yeah, when I was in Oxford, I went. And
nice job.
It really does seem to me... Well, first of all, let's give some context. So, Jeff Zucker leaves CNN in the wake of Chris Cuomo leaving CNN because Jeff Zucker admitted to having an extramarital affair.
Wait a minute, Nick. I have to say it. Zucker is a fucker.
I'm literally and figuratively. Yeah, Kyle's just like, goodbye. Good night, guys.
That's not the
Goodbye.
worst thing I've ever said.
But he leaves CNN because he lied about the relationship, and the girlfriend, his mistress, let's say, has decided to say, "Fuck all of you, I'm leaving."
Literally, figuratively, and literally. I mean, Kyle, and I'll let you answer this, but you and I have a little bit of experience of a certain relationship at the radio station that we knew about for the longest time.
Yeah, it has to do with our good old friend Rudy.
So you and I have experience on this front, understanding what this is like.
Yes, I mean, it was blatantly obvious. You couldn't hide that, even if you painted it like they were flamingo pink.
I mean, so you and I know that this was going to happen. Eventually, Zucker was going to get caught, and they probably paid him off a nice settlement of money. I mean,
Yes.
look what just happened with Cuomo, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and he's got an allegation against him. That's why he got suspended, and that's why he got fired from the station.
I mean, he ended up having an allegation, but it was completely different from what he was in trouble for. Because
Yes.
apparently he was trying to get his brother to he's trying to help his brother dodge the who was the governor in New York.
I mean,
Not sexual misconduct allegations himself.
I mean, did anyone think it was a conflict of interest every time his brother went on his TV show?
That's the definition of fucking conflict.
That's my point.
Look up the term conflict of interest in the dictionary. It's a picture of Chris Cuomo's dumb fucking face.
I mean, we all know that this is not surprising considering what goes on at the news networks. It doesn't matter if it's ABC, NBC. I mean, heck, Nick and I talked about a couple of weeks ago what happened with Whoopi and The View, for crying out loud.
Oh my
Even
god!
though that was kind of different, but
It doesn't,
again,
but it shows you that you have to be accountable for your actions.
yeah, but it's always funny to watch crusty old white men get their comeuppance. I think that's what Shakespeare referred to as being hoisted by your own petard.
all I can say is that everyone on the left, and I'm not pointing this out on purpose, but everyone on the left, especially CNN, is going to say this.
RELAX.
Hey, you want a new terrestrial radio host? Give it to fucking Aaron Rodgers.
Now, was this for what I think it was?
What? Oh, that's Aaron Rodgers and CNN calling me, telling me to stop. Anyway, but this whole story is nuts. We've seen relationships with CEOs. Look at Bezos, for crying out loud, with his
God.
relationship. So,
Sorry, I keep laughing at this, but it's just the middle-aged divorced man playbook. It is.
Come on, Jeffrey,
It's-
you can do it. Pave the way, get back into it.
it is. It's every single play in the divorced man playbook. It's just the only thing he didn't do was buy a Ferrari.
Oh god, he could buy probably 4 or 5 with the money he makes.
Well, and the sick part is, he lost half the money from his divorce, and he got it all back.
Yeah,
And then some. So what does that tell you?
I don't think he's worried at all.
No, all I could say is I think he's a.
No, you're right. You're right.
No, I was going to say he's a pussy for money, but basically,
I don't know if I'd go that far.
oh come on, he's willing to do anything to make a buck, anything.
Yeah, obviously.
like that stupid bridge in Holland where I don't know if you guys remember the story. He was talking with the Dutch government to have this historic bridge removed so that
So his yacht.
Yes.
yeah, so his yacht could pass.
Yes, I did see that.
Like Jesus Christ, dude.
And first of all, he doesn't need to do this stuff. He doesn't need to go to space. He doesn't need to own all the grocery stores.
No, but I'll tell you what he does have. He has what I like to call "fuck you" money. I can't go to space. Fuck you. I'm going to space. I can't bribe the Dutch government to move a bridge so my yacht doesn't have to crash?
No,
I'm doing it anyway.
Nick, I'm going to make the joke I made when we covered all the people going to space. It's a dick measuring contest.
It is a dick measuring contest. It's a pissing contest, but yes, it's a pissing contest, but of course it's rich white men, so it's basically just it's a pissing contest with explosives.
It's a bunch of bitchy billionaires is the way I would put it. But
it's a good way of putting it.
Well, yes, but speaking of bitchy people, let's talk about the Oscars, the 2022 hosts. So Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes, and Regina Hall, first time 3 hosts, I think, in quite a few decades.
Yeah.
And the Oscars continuing march towards irrelevancy.
Yeah.
Soldiers on further and further.
Now, I think we should do like a prop bet. Should we expect the telecast to go over or under the allotted time it has? Because I think it almost took an hour to get to Best Picture.
Way over. I'll take maybe about 30, 45 minutes over.
Yeah, I think so. You, Nick?
Over.
Yes, because here's
breaking news. He says it's over.
So here's the thing. I understand.
Well, I'm wishing that it would just be over and they would never do the award show again. But
I hope so. But people apparently want that golden statue.
But we talk about pissing contests, right? What are the Oscars if not the film industry's biggest pissing contest of the year?
I'm surprised the Dolby Theater hasn't flooded yet.
Well, when you're supported by that much hot air and bullshit, it tends to act as a barrier to all the urine of the pissing contest.
I mean, let's put it this way. On our sports show, I got blocked by Deshaun Watson because he didn't like that I was emotionally hurting his ego and I was living rent free in his head.
That was a fun week.
So
emotional, damn it.
And now watch. Now we're gonna get blocked by the Oscars. I'm telling you. Watch.
The Oscars, they have a Twitter account, right?
Yeah, just like the American Country Music Awards, they have it too.
You're asking Amy Schumer to go up there. I mean, I like Amy Schumer's stand-up. I always did. Wanda Sykes too. I mean, the woman's a legend, but I don't exactly look. I don't even know what the fuck they're aiming for here. Are you aiming for them to be funny? Are you aiming for them to be studious and regal as hosts?
No, you know what's going to happen? What's going to happen is, like every other award show, they're going to walk up on stage. I'm going to go over under 5 Trump jokes because that's usually what happens up there.
Right.
And
none of them are funny.
Because Amy Schumer was a has-been from 10 years ago. Wanda Sykes, I don't remember the last thing she's been in. And Regina Hall, I don't even know.
Who the hell is Regina Hall?
Exactly.
Regina Hall just won an Oscar a couple years ago.
But my point is, these people are irrelevant.
What are the Oscars if not the irrelevant Olympics? It's movies that nobody saw competing for the right to call themselves the most movie that nobody saw.
And actually, the best accurate way to describe this, because we were talking about dick measuring contest.
What happened to the Oscars?
Wait a minute.
In 2018, if Black Panther won Best Picture.
Wait a minute.
Would have worked.
Nick, we're talking about dick measuring contest. I think you summed it up appropriately.
Congratulations, dickweeds. Exactly. Congratulations, dickweeds. Just continue handing out your trophies. Just give yourself a round of applause and a bracing hand job, and then just leave. Okay.
Oh. Damn. Wow. Okay. Let's talking about giving hand jobs. Super Bowl celebs being maskless.
So other than the whole, them spending every 5 ads talking about crypto or car insurance or some combination thereof. Seeing so many celebrities there, it's just, I mean, safety protocols. What safety protocols?
Actually,
doesn't apply to me. I'm rich.
Actually, and Kyle, I don't know if you guys talked about it when you were still at the TV station. Talking about the mask mandates, and LA had a legal mandate up through the Super Bowl.
Yes, they did. Did they follow it? No.
Nope. Absolutely not. No.
Because they're celebrities.
not only
Because-
just the celebrities,
because
but
the rules don't apply to them.
yeah,
Rules
not
don't
only not only the celebrities, but the civilians as well were not wearing masks as well. So the stadium did a horrible job enforcing everything. But they're like, oh no, it was only for 30 seconds. It was only for 30 seconds. Guess what? Nobody gives a shit.
Exactly.
There were
Exactly.
video.
Thank you.
if
Thank you for that banner.
If there was long enough to be videos out on social media, that means it was more than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Exactly. Plus,
And look at the list. Look at the list. J-Lo, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Jay-Z, and I'll leave out the last name because Nick will criticize me if I say the last name.
Oh,
So you know which name I'm talking about, Nick. I'm not going to say it because he wasn't wearing a mask.
who, Dave Portnoy?
No, a certain NBA star. I'm not going to say his name.
Yes.
LeBron James.
I was very good last week, Nick.
Which version of LeBron James? The LeBron James now, or the creepy digitally de-aged one? They use, they use
I don't know.
But
that
the way I would put
There's
this,
the one advice I can give you. I can give you from the future, son. It's don't do Space Jam 2.
but what I would
check
say,
out the cartoon titties.
excuse me, what the whole thing with LeBron, who's trying to hijack the parade as well because he wants a parade for his Lakers that won 2 years ago.
Right.
Also,
I mean, I dare you to find anybody in Los Angeles County that even remembers that the Lakers won.
they won in the bubble for crying out loud. Okay, we're not going to
They
talk.
won in the bubble.
Excuse me.
That's more of an empty the bench kind of topic.
Yeah, so this is stupid, and we're dealing. The one thing I'll go back to sports is Novak Djokovic in the tennis world, who came out the other day and said, "I refuse to be vaccinated. I'd rather sit out of all the tennis majors than get your." He said, "F you to the vaccine. I'm not getting it."
Okay, then.
There goes your.
I hope you like making all that money.
Well, he's made millions. You think he cares?
Yeah, but I really don't think that PragerU and Newsmax are going to be sponsoring any tennis events anytime soon. So, Mr. Free Speech Warrior, I think your wallet's about to get a little lighter.
Well, and well, ask Kyrie Irving also how he feels.
Right.
Flat man, flat man.
Oh God. Well, no, he tried to walk that back.
Oh yeah.
But all right, let's move on from COVID. Let's talk about, you know what? Kyle likes going to the movies. You like going to the movies, right?
I love going to movies.
All right. AMC may sell you popcorn outside of the movie theater. Good idea or bad idea?
So, as somebody who went to the movies a lot pre-pandemic and has not been back in a movie theater for almost 2 years now, this might be one of the dumbest fucking ideas I've ever seen. And I've lived through a lot, and I lived through the fucking 3D fad that every movie was doing a couple years ago.
Everything's in 3D. It's like you're pointing at me.
But I don't know. And first of all,
you just gotta wear glasses that make you look like a fucking pud.
right.
Yeah.
So I read this story that Kyle sent to me because I wanted to make sure there was nothing fishy going on in this story, like that they're just saying like they're gonna go into the movie
No,
theater.
it'd be corny.
What?
It'd be corny, not fishy.
Whatever. Fishy, corny, whatever. I don't care. Same difference in my book. Hey, we worked with Rudy. Fishy and corny are the same thing. Anyway, so when I went to go look this up, and it said that they want to make it microwavable popcorn. It's not going to be the same.
So they don't want to sell you popcorn anymore? Is that what I'm hearing?
No.
They're turning it into another microwavable popcorn.
So they don't want to. So they're like, so they're going to stock their popcorn on store shelves.
Pretty much.
Right.
Who cares?
I mean, you're talking to somebody who spent a lot of his childhood, living on Pop Secret when I could. Every movie I watched.
No, but Kyle is the resident.
Saturday night to be a bag of popcorn.
Kyle is the resident moviegoer in this podcast episode here because he goes all the time, at least before the pandemic. Movie theater popcorn had this unique sensation.
That's the flavor call.
And
which, by the way, is not real butter.
because people, well, that's right. But when you went and you had movie theater popcorn, you were satisfied, you liked it, and then when you went to have any other popcorn, you're like, it's not the same, right?
It's
Kyle?
not the same.
No, it's not the same because who wants dry, stale, overcooked popcorn?
Or the
That's what
Colonel.
And there was just something so pleasantly greasy about that popcorn. Like
Yeah.
it'll leave a film on your face. It's almost like you were. It's
I
almost like
want-
you're eating Fritos.
I want that like self butter dispenser.
Yes.
Yeah,
Actually-
have some moisturizer.
No, you know what the worst part is? I had a friend that when I used to go to the movies, he was one of those guys that like soaked the popcorn.
That's me.
Yeah,
That's
but
you?
I do that
fog
too.
it out?
I feel like I felt like I was going to get a heart attack just from watching him eat it.
I mean, considering what they're trying to do, flavor dispensers now too.
Oh
You know,
god.
like
And
like,
you know,
like Doritos dust on popcorn.
oh Jesus! But they hired an executive from Pepsi's Frito-Lay snack unit, and the Twinkies owner, Hostess Brands, is taking over AMC to do this project to sell the popcorn.
Right.
So is it really that much of a fucking science project to just take the popcorn that you sell in movie theaters and
Well-
just bring it there?
There's a difference, though, and Kyle, you know this for sure. When you
Oh,
go
yeah.
and get popcorn from the theater, it's made, it's ready to just
it's
move
made
out.
in front of you.
Yeah.
When you buy it, you buy those stupid rectangular packet things.
Yeah.
It's a flattened box.
It's got the kernels. It's got the oil in it, and you heat it up. The oil gets hot, and then you go pop, and it's ready.
Wait,
But with it,
are you the old fashioned? Would you put it in the pot and put it on the stove, or do you put it in the microwave?
for the sake of time, I just put it in the microwave. But if
Yeah,
I'm really
same.
in the mood for it, I would just go for the classic Jiffy Pop.
Yeah, that because I know some people that still do that. Like they'll put the pot on the stove and they'll just go like this and move it around. And I'm like, first of all,
It's something my grandmother used to do when she was a little girl.
oh really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is going to be a failed experiment, to be quite honest.
As the
I
typical
mean,
with AMC.
there are so many other things you could do. I mean, you could maybe you know what? Just say fuck it and start selling the 128 ounces of soda that they sell you in the theater. Just
Well-
give me an industrial sized box of Milk Duds or M&Ms and I'm good to go.
Actually, you know what my favorite candy was? Bunch of Crunch.
Oh yeah.
That's a deep cut.
And I missed that because they don't sell that outside of the movie theaters.
Juji fruits you only see in movie theaters anymore. Swedish fish you only see in movie theaters.
Because they're expensive.
Snow caps too.
Snowcap, you can't get those at ice cream places anymore?
No, you can. No.
I have not been in one that had snow. I have not been in a non-movie theater that sold snow caps. The only reason I know they exist is because I've been in movie theaters.
Oh man, I wasn't really a Snowcaps fan anyway.
Besides, they taste like weird Hershey Kisses. So.
Hey, you have your fence against Hershey Kisses?
No, I'm saying that they taste like weird Hershey Kisses.
Oh, that reminds me of that weird conversation we had around Christmas about the Oreo candy canes.
Oh my god.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And Nick looked at me funny when I said, "Come on, that's amazing."
No, it's and I'll say it again. No, it's not.
Why?
First of all, there's a textural component to eating an Oreo that's completely lost when you put it in a candy cane.
Oh, come on.
Your brain expects peppermint flavor when you bite into a candy cane. You bite into a candy cane and taste Oreo. You're thinking, "Am I having a stroke right now?"
What? Come on.
See, this is what we this is what we do here at Beyond the Bench, Kyle. We just get into arguments over the most trivial shit.
Oh
related to
no, and Nick and I used to do that too. So
That's what makes these shows great. And eventually, when we make an announcement at the end, you might see even more, Kyle. So, all right, let's move on. We've talked enough about weird shit. Well, actually, you know what? This next thing is weird shit. Judge in Palin versus New York Times case knew the case would be dismissed. Now, when I saw this, and Kyle sent this to me, how does the judge know that the case was going to be dismissed?
because you know the law, don't you?
Well,
You kind of have to have that as a qualification for the job.
This is the one thing I hate about Capital Region Television. It's that they always want to be first. Not what's that phrase? Always want to be first, not
First,
clean,
not right.
First and not right. Yeah, no. We wanted to do that, which was the absolute wrong thing to do. Because nobody knows exactly, what else is going on in the courthouse. For all we know, they could be having another hearing as we speak, even though she's already most likely out of the building.
Right. And this whole story is dumb. She's dumb. I can't take her. She's annoying.
I can actually tell you, drawing from my experience working, having a master's degree in journalism, what you need to prove in defamation cases, especially in libel cases, slander of spoken, print is liable. So, the burden of proof to prove defamation falls upon the person suing. You have to prove that the New York Times knew it was false and published it anyway.
Well,
you cannot prove that, so therefore, your case goes flying out the fucking window.
I'll twist Nick's screws even more. The whole Dave Portnoy case versus Business Insider, where I'm saying it's the same thing, where he has to prove that they were purposely trying to slander him.
Yeah, you have to purposely prove that they knew it were false and trying to fuck him over.
And guess what? There was none.
There usually isn't.
So
there usually isn't.
It's just one of those things where you're just like, well,
I don't like the New York Times. I definitely don't like Sarah Palin.
Fuck you, New York Times, for stealing Wordle.
I mean,
yeah.
No, did you see the weird stories of going around that apparently there's a lot of errors going around?
I've been hearing about this.
That everyone's getting like different words when they get to the end now.
Odd.
And now apparently they're creating like Lord of the Wordle and Twirtle for Taylor Swift.
They have one for curse words called Ludo.
Lingo's coming back to CBS.
RuPaul, everybody! Welcome back to CBS.
Oh, God.
Well, all right. So, we're going to wrap this all up. First, we're going to announce a guest that's coming on right now. Well, I taped it beforehand. Yes, I gave it away. We didn't do it live. Blah, 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 whatever. And so, remember that story we talked about earlier about 94.7 The Block? And originally it was Nash and New York Country and all that weird shit.
Right.
So, I had a chance to sit down with Jesse Addy, who actually was colleagues, especially with me, when we were back at 2 Penn Plaza, when he worked at the country station. And let's put it this way. I got to have a lot of fun discussing what happened in the old days. He told me an interesting story about how apparently all the employees were put into 3 rooms in the day 2019 when they officially were told that Nash was being sent to Intercom, now Odyssey. And that was also the same time they found out PLJ was done.
What's being turned into PL Jesus?
That joke never falls flat, ever. And actually, Nick, the guy who told them about it is someone that I've had the chance to interview on a prior podcast, Mike McVeigh.
It's funny how these lines intersect. So you know what we'll do?
So
throw it to them.
Well, so we'll throw to that interview. We'll come back. We'll wrap it all up. We have an announcement to make as well. And we'll finish episode 18 up. So stay right here. We'll be right back. Joining me now on Beyond the Bench. And believe it or not, I have an indirect connection with this next guest that's joining me because we worked in the same cluster in New York radio for a long time and worked on, at the time it was Nash. Then it became New York Country. Jesse Addy is now joining me. Hi, Jesse.
I believe it. I believe our connection.
How you doing?
I'm real good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So let's talk about the radio business because you and I have been in this business for a long time. So how did you get the radio bug? Because we all talk about how we get the radio bug. Sometimes we get it from listening to radio. Sometimes it's from something else. How did you get the radio bug?
I was born into it, I guess you could say. So my dad was in radio, and both my parents went to high school together, went to Michigan State together, and then got married. And my dad was doing radio, a few places around Michigan, and then got a job at a big rock station in Dallas. And that's where I was born in Dallas, Texas. And so I just grew up going into radio stations, back when, especially when DJs had to work 6 days a week back in the 70s. And it was just standard, Monday through Saturday. So Saturdays I would spend a lot of time at the radio station. But like anything, that was just what, my dad did. So I didn't think much of it. It was cool because my friends, we moved back to Michigan, and as I got into school, and it was another like big rock station in Detroit. And it wasn't necessarily targeted, say, like as I'm in, elementary and middle school. So it wasn't like the top 40 station that my friends listened to, but the older kids, like in high school, when I was in middle school, all listened to that radio station. So I had like a little bit of like, hey, that's, it's Mark Addy's son. So then I realized, okay, it's kind of a unique job. And we actually had a radio station in my high school, which was cool. But I also went through this like teen angst thing where, you want to do anything but what your parents do. So I sort of stayed away from that for my first part of high school. And then I had this friend, Rich, that was like, hey, it just doesn't make sense to me that you're not like doing anything with the radio station. Your dad's literally on the radio every day. I was like, okay. So then I went in and did this show for like a few weeks, and I'm 16, and I was like, it just felt like, it's like, why am I fighting this? This is what I know. Like, if my dad was a carpenter, I'd be building houses kind of thing. So I didn't really think I would do radio as a career, but I think just being around radio stations. Then when I went to Michigan State, I was way more time at the radio station than spending time on doing homework. I was going to be a teacher. And in Michigan State, you graduate and then you do your student teaching. So I had a degree in education, and I got about halfway through my student teaching, was working part-time in Lansing, Michigan. And about halfway through, I just thought, I think so much about, like, when I'm listening to the radio, like, oh, I would do this or do that, so much more. And maybe because it was an outlet, but I just decided, I was like, why don't I was just going to give this a year. And so I decided to go, just see what happened. I ended up going to South Carolina to work at a station there. And that year has now turned into a few more years. So that's kind of how I caught the bug, I guess.
No, that's great. And like I said, I had a radio station in the high school also here in Long Island. So I know all about getting that radio bug early. Now, when did you end up here in New York to do radio?
So it was 2013. I had been in Detroit for 8 years, which was ABC Disney when I started. And then I got bought by Citadel. And then I got bought by Cumulus. And so my contract was up in Detroit. And I was kind of looking at, where I was going to go. Because that was like, my hometown. I had come back home to do afternoons. It was awesome. But at the 2 weeks before I was leaving, and I didn't really have a job, all of a sudden the station, Nash FM, launched in New York. So in the process of my, exit interview, I kind of raised my hand. I was like, I don't really have anything, set. They were like, well, let's talk more. And then, it was a few days later, I was here, and I was at Nash Bash, which was at Roseland Ballroom, which isn't around anymore. And so that was February of 2013, which will be, I guess, 9 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing how fast this business makes you grow older and faster. Unfortunately, I'm 29, so I don't know about older age. But talk about that cluster, though, because you and I have been in that cluster at Two Penn Plaza where those stations were. So obviously, you worked at Nash, I worked at ABC. That cluster in the beginning, like you said, when it was ABC Disney, a lot bigger, a lot more people in there. Then it kind of changed pace. What did you think of the working environment in there?
Well, for me, I come at it from, doing this a while, and WPLJ, which was in that building, was like, there's 3 or 4 stations, even as, in my teens and 20s, where I thought if I could ever work there. And so when I ended up at Nash FM to be next door to WPLJ, which was crazy, right? So that was incredible. And then when they walked me into the Nash FM studio and I looked and the buttons were the old studio for the Yankees broadcast. And they had like the little buttons, when they hit the Yankee, you hit a button to send a tone to the affiliates or whatever they do. I was like, I can't even, are you, and then, I realized in WABC, like, I mean, you don't have to know anything about broadcasting to know WABC in New York and, the people that are down the hall. And so I was sort of starstruck, guys like Scott Shannon and Race Taylor and Sid Rosenberg that used to, he'd be like, the great Jesse Addy. Like, I was like, oh my, I don't know if he's being serious or not, So for me, the first, year or something was just like, I couldn't, every day I walked in there, I was like, wow, I can't believe. And that's probably not being from here and working in really small places to not even know if that was going to be a possibility. So, I loved it. I was sort of self-aware at the time. I could be hearing conversations. I'm like, this seems like a movie. And then they would come in and like, they would film a movie there, like Dak Shepard is in, what is it? This Is Where I Leave You, which was filmed partly. There was a CBS series a few years ago. I can't remember I don't think it's on the air, but anyway, just to be like in there was epic for me personally.
No, it was a much different experience. I remember when I walked in there the first time, I think it was 2017, first radio job. Took me a year and a half out of college to finally get a radio job, and much different now. I just remember saying to myself, New York, Market One radio, much different mindset, much different situation. And like you said, you worked in Detroit. I saw you worked in Atlanta. It's a much different market mindset than it is coming into New York, right?
Yeah, right. And one of the things for me, I think that, I just put so much pressure on myself because I had worked in stations that were in trailers, and I'd worked in, things where I was like, is this, the wall? I'd seen enough, the paneling on the wall kind of thing, the wood paneling, and to be there. And I had a moment, I remember my first, few months there where I had given like my all on something, and my work apparently wasn't satisfactory, and I really worked hard, which, but someone said to me, Jesse, this is New York, and the need for excellence is high and constant. And so from that moment on, and that was even in a situation where I had I thought, done something that would have given me extra credit. But I just, the need to be at your best, which is really, the challenge of it, which is, I almost don't want to talk about past tense because maybe, who knows, but.
Hey, in this business, you never know what's going to happen. You could be doing something 1 second and doing something another second. The one compliment I do want to pay you, and I say this to a lot of people in the radio business.
I'm going to soak this up if this is just the one.
Well, no, and I say this to a lot of people, but I look at, and a lot of radio people sometimes look at this in different ways. I always thought you were in your element, was the term I like to tell people. Like you knew your space, you knew your category, you knew your interviews were great. So I always felt like you were in your element. How would you describe your style of radio?
That's a great question. I think that for me, having both sides of the equation from a young age of being in a studio and seeing someone on the radio and literally what it sounds like when a DJ is on the radio, which is music radio or any radio. Like there's, if you're an AM and there's bumper music coming on, all of a sudden you turn the mic on and the speakers go off. Just understanding like how it feels, how it sounds. And then obviously the real life experience of just being a listener. And, I think about my mom and driving around the station she listens to. And so I just wanted to be and do want to be the guy that people are, for me, afternoon drive has kind of been a sweet spot. That's the way it's worked out for me. But, but anytime you're on the radio, for me in that moment of like, I just had a long day at work. Things didn't go, when I get home, I got to be mom or dad or whatever it is. I have these 30 minutes where I get to zone out. And I just wanted to make that, just better. Dan Harris that does that podcast at 10%. I just want to make things like 10% better. I'm not going to change your life playing these songs, but a joke. And so for me, that's kind of been my sweet spot. It did enough radio, and I think tried enough things. And I've done mornings and worked in different formats. And so by the time I got to New York, I'd realized, okay, this is what I do pretty well. Not to say like I'm going to stay in my lane, but I kind of knew my lane, and it's your comment about, I can't remember how you worded it, but.
Oh, in your element?
In my element, yeah. And I think for me, it's just like understanding what I'm trying to achieve with the listener, which helps a lot because there wasn't a lot of trial and error for me when I showed up here. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And this is what I do.
Now, you were always afternoon drive once you got to New York, or were you in different times when you got here?
No, I did afternoons my last 3. So here, then Detroit and Greenville, South Carolina as well. And then I did mornings twice in Lansing, failed miserably. And for whatever reason, still working that through in my head. And actually when I worked in Atlanta, I was the fill-in guy. So I was like, somebody's taking vacation or gets sick, or I'd be that guy. I could be at the station literally in 30 minutes. So I did all those shifts. So old enough to be the overnight guy, dude. So I did a lot of radio at 3 a.m, which helped immensely, having a little bit of room and have a program director. His name was Garrett Michaels, who's in San Diego now, who'd actually like air check me, like the guy that was on at 3 a.m, which was awesome. So yeah, I just had a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different shifts.
See, what people don't realize, I'm glad you brought up that 3 a.m. Shift. When I worked at ABC, I did 2 years of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., where I literally felt like the most grumpiest person in the world for 2 years. So I guess, can you explain to people that, and a lot of people have said this to me, you just push buttons on a radio board. I'm sure people have said this to you a million times. They've said it to me a million times. What do you tell people when they say to you or say something in the equation of you just hit buttons on a board?
I really haven't had a lot of people say that to me, I guess, because I don't know if they're trying to win tickets from me or something. But, so they're generally like being nice. But no, I think there is a lot of, because I've worked at stations where a lot of traffic would go in front of the studio. So say it was like the studio's facing the lobby. And ultimately, your job is to make it look easy, to make it look effortless. Like, it's not going to be good radio if you're in there like frenzied all the time. So along with that comes people that just kind of see you like chilling out, and people be in the studio talking to you about something, and all of a sudden you're just like, hold on one second, and you turn the mic on, and then you talk after a song into commercials, and then you turn it off, and they're like, well, I couldn't. What did you just do? Like, I just stopped the conversation. I was like, well, I didn't actually listen to you for the last 2 minutes. What you were saying, I was thinking what I was going to say on the radio. So I think that's part of it. I actually think what's interesting is like what you're doing right now. And I see it's so interesting to see like every celebrity in the world have this kind of like a setup with a microphone in their house. So it's sort of demystified it in a way. I mean, I have some headphones over here, but I was like, just the concept of seeing somebody wearing headphones, talking to a microphone, you were just like so cool. And now like everyone in America has a set of headphones and a professional microphone. So it kind of hurts me a little bit because I'm like, oh my gosh, it used to be so cool. And now it's like, oh, do you do everybody's got that set up. So
I know it's crazy. I mean, COVID has changed everything. We'll get to COVID in a little bit because I have questions about that. But I want to talk about your backstage videos, like at the ACM Awards and all those different opportunities you've gotten to be a part of. Can you talk about those? Because I thought those were great. I saw some of your videos on YouTube.
Thank you. Yeah, though those are interesting because country music, this is the only country station I've ever worked at here in New York. And the country artists are so accessible and so friendly, and much more than any other format. Other maybe sports, because they have to like the athletes have to talk to the media or they get fined after a game. But so what they would do, radio row type of things, literally a row of radio stations that artists would come through, and for radio, if you did that for other formats, you might get the C-level artists, D-level artists. You literally have the biggest names in country music that are talking to radio stations, not just in New York, but all over the country. So those are interesting. If you ever, get to watch a bunch of those interviews, I mean, I would sit there and do 30 to 40 interviews in a day, generally between 3 and 5 minutes. And it's like a muscle, like you stretch after a while. Like the first 2 or 3 are a little stiff. And then you get into this sweet spot of like interviews 10 through about 20. And then you're tired. Then the last 10 are like, I don't even know who we talked to, or, literally people are like, the handlers are coming around and be like, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to Dustin Lynch? Have you? I'm like, no. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I talked to them 3 hours ago. Like you can't even remember. So, but yeah, though that to me is like almost like a radio sort of boot. Like I wish everyone could experience it, whether it's a TV junket, or sports related, but just to be in that atmosphere of having to, 30 plus interviews in a day. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, then you end up with one of those moments with Blake Shelton, which I thought was hilarious in a lot of ways, where I couldn't tell if you were confused by what he was doing or if it was just one of those Blake Shelton moments, right?
I think he was having fun that day, and I think he, to peel the curtain back, I think he'd already talked to a few other, that was kind of a shtick for the day, probably just to keep himself interested in what was going on. But, at the end of it, he's like, I love you, man. And like a heartfelt, I love you, like, oh, and then called me out for not saying it back. And so that's interesting too, that interview in that moment, because I feel, and as I've interviewed more and more people and gone back and watched things, how many interesting things people say in the last sentence of like their paragraph, as they're just like, yada, 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 yada. And, that was really the thing that led me to, therapy after my sister died. Now, that'll be like the last thing they'll say in your mind. And this, you're already sort of like thinking about your next question. So I've tried to, and I think about that incident with Blake, staying engaged. Because at that point, when he says that, not to talk about, inside baseball, but when he's saying that, I'm already, the handler's like rap, they're giving you the rap signal. I'm already like, got the tagline for the ACM awards in my head, and and when something like that comes out, I've tried to, even since that moment, get better at like staying engaged as long as I can.
It's a weird moment because like I've done interviews before where someone will, like you said, they hit you with something and you're like, oh wait, I didn't have anything else. I was at the end. I was like, right. Okay. But actually it leads me to my next thought about interviews. So what are your thoughts on heavily, like shows that are heavy on interviews? Do you like interviews? Do you not like interviews? I know in the music format it's different because obviously you have to play a certain amount of songs in an hour and a quota for songs in an hour. But what do you think about interviews during shows?
I mean, it depends on what people are there for. I think that my voice is there. I haven't talked on a microphone in a long time. I think that it depends on the situation and the expectations of the audience. I mean, for me, that somebody that hasn't, that's been able to jump down every rabbit hole imaginable because I've had the time to do it, which has been really nice. So I've watched a lot of interviews on YouTube and another one, but that's what I'm there for. I think people that are coming in to hear their favorite music, it's cool to know that, oh, we're talking to this person. And it's cool to be like, oh, they're on the radio. But if that's not why you're there, if you're there to hear like, I got 10 minutes, I want to hear 2 songs and something funny and move on, then you're sort of defying expectations. You go in like a talk format, you're like, this is why I'm here. Now there's ways to do that and edit those down. For me, I would air like, say I interviewed somebody, the first part of the conversation is literally 20 seconds over a song intro. Hey, and lots of laughs. So we'll talk more about that coming up, just to get people in the door. And then after the song, then I'm talking to them for like I mean, 90 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's, just the two of you. And then from that, and that would be like what originally was a 10-minute interview. And then from that, I'm like, hey, we talked to, in case you missed it, so-and-so, and then use that audio and then push it out on every channel. But I think that's one thing I've learned, I kind of felt like I don't want to burden people too much with interviews during, the kind of radio stations I work at. But man, when I watch TikTok, I'm like, ooh, this is backing me up. Because TikTok has discovered what, music radio has been about, at least from, the disc jockey side, is like, you got like seconds before people are pushing that button. To talk about pushing buttons. So like when you open up TikTok, if you notice, there's either words on the screen or somebody will say something to grab your attention in less than 3 seconds, if that. And obviously TikTok has just kind of gone crazy the last year or so. So to me, that kind of feels justification for like, you got to lock them in, keep them interested, and then move out and tell them what's coming up next.
So actually, you brought up the social media space. What do you think about the social media space? Do you think need to be more active? Were you very active when you were on the air, especially here in New York Country Station or Nash? Or do you think you need to be even more active now with social media?
As I got used to it, and I say used to it because I think there's a lot of radio people my age. Like I worked so hard to get good at this one thing. And then it's like, oh, you got to do this other thing. I was like, oh, but that's not the thing I've been working on all these years, And then you try to, adapt or die kind of thing. So, but in my head, I think, and I'm always room for improvement. I could have done, we can always do better, but I had to separate the two. Radio is one thing. And then I do a separate, activity that is social media. And to really plot it out and schedule it in my day, and to get to the point where it's like, okay, now I've got, something I was going to do, and I was doing the, countdown show for the company. It was on all the country stations to say, all right, it's Tuesday. I want this to go out on Friday night, which just was not the way I really thought about things a lot, because it was just like, literally, I've done live radio for most of my career, so it's like I'm plotting out things, like a day, sure. Stuff for the next day, maybe, but to think about, social media is just this completely different thing. Helped me, at least. Like it was a different job almost.
I mean, and I remember in our former employment area that they had something called Stage 17, which in my opinion was not handled 100% properly. In my opinion, they could have used that area a whole heck of a lot better, but that's what they're saying now. Social media and doing digital video and TikTok, where people's attention spans are 30 seconds or less. That's the only way you can grow.
It's interesting too. I'm going to go back and watch. I think I've said the word interesting about 25,000 times, but
that's fine.
It's my crutch. I got to have a crutch.
We all have it.
Yeah. I've posted certain things on social that were with a celebrity, or like a clip of an interview that I was like, oh, this is going to go viral. Oh, this is going to be talking about, like, look at this amazing, it's going to be an entertainment tonight. This is going to be breaking news. It rarely does, unless it's really scandalous. And then it's like, it's probably, everywhere else too. But, just like I was watching, this video of these on TikTok right before I got on here. There's these guys that had put the Oculus goggles on a dog.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen that. And the dog looks up and sees birds. And then, because you can see on the screen what the dog's looking at. And
that's
like,
great.
That's why my Darius Rucker thing didn't go nuts. I needed a dog. And so I think, that all just a completely different space. People come there for different reasons. And I often think about how much, I don't know about you, I spend time on social media, specifically TikTok and Twitter as well, taking in content from people I don't know more so than people I do. Like when I go through my Instagram stories now, I'm like, but these are like lifelong friends of mine, and then I hit it on TikTok. I'm on TikTok for an hour watching people I have no clue who they are. So it's just an interesting, I don't know, human observation.
It's an interesting dynamic. Now, obviously, like you mentioned PLJ before, they went out the door. Then eventually we get to 2019, and this is when all the proverbial, you know what, hits the fan, and the country station eventually gets swapped with what was Entercom and eventually Odyssey. Can you tell me what went through your head during that moment in time when you hear this news? And of course us, because we're all on the inside, as you said, inside baseball. We hear about this before a lot of people do.
Yeah, that day was funny because this is, what was it? It was maybe Valentine's Day, 2019.
I remember hearing that's when it came out, and then I think it became official in March of that year of 2019, I think.
Yeah, it was something. Anyway, it was a day much like any other. Let's put it that way. They had, for people that don't know this story, they had divided us up into 3 different rooms. Were you there? Were you in a room? Were you there at work that day?
Which I might have not been, but I heard about it.
So anyway, it was in the building. It was like, go to these 3 rooms. And I was in a room and sort of, it's almost like a murder mystery. Like you're trying to think like, cause then because there was a note that went out. It was like, everybody go to this room. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll see you at the conference room thing. And somebody's like, no, it's in the meeting room A. I'm like, oh, mine says, and then everybody realized, oh, we have different rooms we're supposed to go in. So then you walk in this room and it's like I don't know, the only analogy, it's not like a murder mystery, but that was like, we're all sitting in this room trying to figure out the connection. Why are we in this room? Like, what's the theme? And other people are like, everybody from WABC's in this room. And then my room, we figured out, okay, it was all, Nash FM related people. And so we're in a decent sized conference room, and there's probably like 20 of us in there. And there was a TV screen that was not on. And I looked at the TV and I said, I bet you the TV is going to come on and be like, welcome to Entercom.
Wow.
Dude. So, Mike McVeigh, who is an amazing consultant, one of the best humans in the business, he walks.
I know Mike. Yep.
He walks in the room and says, "WPLJ is going to EMF broadcasting," which was a religious broadcast, which meant that was the end. Yeah.
That was the end. It's over.
Yeah. WABC is going to be here, rocking. You are now a part of Entercom. And I was just like, A, in shock, and then B, it was like, oh my gosh, did everybody in this room think that I knew? Like, just randomly threw that out. So at that point, I had a girlfriend that had just moved to New York and was on the 3rd day of her job. So I was like, this is it. Entercom has these incredible country stations. Certainly, they're going to staff this thing up with their people. So, at that point, I was like, you just moved here. I think anyways, we'll wait and see. And then, a few weeks went by and we officially became part of the company. And I think they gave us a test run. And then we kind of, we stuck for a while. And so I was happy to do that. But just such a bizarre, weird time. And at the same time, PLJ is going away. So I'm trying to be at my, and Kelly and Katie, everybody trying to be at our absolute best to impress this new company. And then our great friends next door losing their jobs at the same time. It was like a 3-month sort of build up to that. So it was a lot of emotions and survivor's guilt and all that going on.
Yeah, I mean, that I'll never forget. I felt bad for you guys because I didn't know what was going on. That when they told us ABC staying in the building, and I said, well, I kind of had a notion that eventually we were going to be out of there at one point. Also, but I just remember I said, I like this station. It's great. It was great in the market. I don't know. Some people make this weird notion that country music doesn't work in the New York market. What do you say to that first?
Well, it almost does. Let's put it that way. I mean, if you just look at the amount of obviously concerts that come and whether that's, both or I should say each tour comes to the area twice to PNC Bank Arts Center and Jones Beach in the summer. You look at the amount of shows that sell out at Madison Square Garden. The issue is, I think that unlike, say, a podcast where you're like, I enjoy this podcast I do with Nick, but I'd also like to do 5 other podcasts. You can do that. You can't just start tacking on radio stations, FM terrestrial radio stations. There are so many signals that are allotted in the market by the FCC. You have to get the license. And so because of that, you're at a situation where we only have so many signals. It's a business. We're trying to make this amount of money, and it just didn't quite, the ratings have to drive revenue, and it just not quite, making it happen. So, I guess that's because I still process it. But I think it's close, but obviously now, they tried it in the 90s and in the early 2000s. It went away for 17 years. It came back for 9 years, and I had a lot of fun. we had a great time. I think the artists in Nashville and that community loves it. So it's almost like, I don't know if there's a definitive, obviously it doesn't at some level, because it's not, people decided twice now. But it's close, almost.
No, I think it's close. I like country music, so I was kind of sad to see it all go away. Twice actually, because I saw it once leave where we were, and twice now off the radio. What do you think about the new format taking the spot?
I'm a huge fan of that music. That's part of what I grew up on. Like I said, this is the only country station I'd worked at, and it was pop stations before that. And I, have great friends in the building. It's a company I'd love to work for someday. But, those are I've been part of a lot of research projects that worked. And when you do that kind of research and you say this is going to be best for this frequency, then, I tend to unfortunately agree on some level. I can't say we were the, number one station in New York. How could you, end it? We obviously weren't. A lot of passion for our format. I think there's also a lot of passion for the new format. So it's, playbooks sort of cross paths at some point, but I wish them luck.
Now, you told me, and I saw it also, that you got a chance to do national shows at Odyssey. Can you tell me the experience of going from, still doing local, but now attaching some national shows to your repertoire?
Yeah, I think that it was hard. It was definitely a goal of mine. And I think still is, to be able to have that kind of a reach. I specifically remember writing down, like, I wanted to, on the same sort of one sheet of these goals for my life, and afternoons in New York City and National Countdown Show was a part of that. That's a different kind of radio, for sure. I grew up listening to, Casey Kasem and Bob Kingsley and these big country, other countdown shows too. So, I feel like I try so hard to sound local, and whether I was from New York, I was also doing for the company afternoons at Kiss Country in Miami. And so I spend an hour on all these Miami, the TV stations, Miami Herald website, trying to just sound without sounding, you only talk about what you know. So I'm trying to, relate to people there. So then on a national platform, you kind of have to be omnipresent. And it took me a while. It was interesting for anyone that's never done it. It took me a while to get comfortable with not, I don't know how it's almost like having the authority of the permission to be that guy. You know what I mean? Like, well, who are you to come on my radio in San Diego? I don't know who you are. Why are you acting like you're so comfortable? And so I wasn't in some ways. And I listened to as I got more comfortable, and it was like, you kind of earn, like, okay, I've been on every Saturday for half a year, and no, I've never been to Seattle, and I'm on this incredible radio station, but I'm going to act like I belong. So that to me was, because I was so, like, when I came here, every Sunday I would do a train ride and go to a different city, somewhere in Jersey or Long Island, or go upstate, a little, Hudson Valley, just to have that authority. Where somebody's like, oh, I'm from, Wantagh. Like, I've been at Mulcahy. I was at Mulcahy's last week. Be able to drop those things either in person or on the radio. To not be able to do that on a national show kind of was when you talked, we talked earlier about being, God, what was the term? I have to ask you again. Not sweet spot.
Being in your element. Yes.
Being in my element. That was a little bit out of my element, which I wasn't used to, but loved it.
Now, you were also tracking stations while you were doing New York, right? I thought I was reading somewhere that on top of doing your live shows, you were tracking other stations the same time, right?
Yeah. So I've done that a couple times. I was doing Miami and Springfield, Massachusetts too, which I would do before the New York show, especially when we went back in the studio. So I would do those live. In the our building we were in together, Two Penn Plaza. I was doing for Westwood One a bunch of country stations, and then some of those stations would have local talk breaks during the hour. So everybody would get the same thing, and say 4 or 5, individual stations would get me talking about the local bake sale, or call Merle for your obituary updates kind of thing. But I remember the Mets Royals World Series, right? So I just remember being in the studio, and I would do and you had to do those shows relatively close to when they would air the voice track shows, because that was the I guess the hook of like, we're gonna do this so it's almost live and you can update something. It'll be on your radio station in an hour, which is kind of really cool. But because I had to do them, so close together, doing it at the same time, and I would be on Nash FM like, hey, Mets, tomorrow night, we're going to take this game, 1 game lead, and then we're on the road to sweep. I literally spin around, and I'm on a country station that's a Royals affiliate in Kansas. And so I'm like, Mets have no chance, right? Royals are going to sweep. And somebody was in there. They're like, what? Because, I try to be the listener. So whoever you're rooting for, I'm rooting for. But that's a completely different, element, I guess, to figure out too.
Just so people understand, because I should have explained it. Tracking is doing other stations, not exactly live. It's kind of scheduling yourself around your show to do other stations, right? Just so people know.
Yeah, so tracking is short for voice tracking. So like a music track,
right?
It's a voice track that the computer puts in between the songs, and then you can record it whenever you'd like, and it sounds like somebody's in the studio.
And that's why you were saying earlier, why is this person from New York on my station in Miami or San Diego? And don't get me wrong, like I've heard you on other stations, so I think you do really good at it. I think you were good at it. But I guess local radio is kind of losing its local flavor due to, and I was talking to somebody else about this, because of nationally syndicated radio or just in general. What do you think of now radio stations taking on more syndicated and other programming and going away from some of the local stuff?
I think it's inevitable. I mean, I certainly, I go on social media or my Instagram or TikTok. I'm watching national content all the time. I'm, literally, occasionally I seem to get a lot of live, people walking around live on TikTok in New York. Maybe that's, because I watch, or a lot of New York stuff. But for me, and I'm not in these, a position of making these decisions, but it's kind of like 2 different tracks. And I think there's just going to be, and companies are moving towards it. I was certainly part of one of those companies recently, that you're just going to have national, radio. And then you're also going to have, your local option. Much like when you watch TV news, you're watching Good Morning America from New York City, and then next thing you know, it's your local Tucson anchors talking about, the weather there. So I think that's kind of the model. It's almost like somebody's going to have to step forward and do it. Because my thing with live and local, maybe I'm unique in this way. I sometimes think I think the live part is almost as much, if more important than the local. I want live. That's all I like. To me, it's if you go through like the top, rated TV shows, like top 20, 30 TV shows, they're almost always sports. Now, I know there's a lot of sports fans, but then amongst those, you're going to see like award shows, finales for like music singing competitions. And I think people dismiss the live thing because it's like, someone say, oh, they don't know. And like, yeah, but when you do know, it's like that excitement, that drama, that tension. I don't really know. Is this person going to pass out on the radio? Is this person going to, fall over on TV? You don't know how it's going to turn out. So I think there's room for both of those. There's room for both of those approaches, and I think both national and local probably need to get a little bit, more focused, I guess, in what lane they're gonna be in.
Now, one of the last couple of things, podcasting. A lot of people talking about podcasting. Have you thought about a podcasting approach, possibly maybe doing that angle, or where do you see yourself going in the future?
For me, I want to find a job, if possible, that I was excited as about getting, the job, whether it was in Atlanta or just the other jobs I've had, especially New York. Just that feeling of like, when you're looking at your phone every like few minutes, like, why did they call me? They said we're going to call me today. I don't want to have something I'm trying to talk myself into, because I've taken jobs like that too, and that never worked for me. So I assume that's radio, and whether that's doing afternoons, maybe mornings, or some sort of programming thing. But I think that's what's next for me. Now, as far as podcasting, not my element. Like I hear so many people, and maybe doing things like this on the similar platform. It's called StreamYard that you use, and I used and to me, I had such a purpose of coming on during the pandemic, and we would do at 2:00 these updates, and people from the station. It was the first time I ever sort of stepped out and really, I guess, put a lot of time into anything that it didn't involve like just straight up being on the radio. So I think that having a purpose to it, if I had some passion, like, whether it's gonna be sports or something else, maybe, but I just feel like I watch podcasts and I just listen to so many entertaining people, and I'm like, man, I'm really good in like knowing where I'm going kind of thing. But that's just for me. Watch a guy like you pull this off with the two Nicks.
Well, if the other one was here, but yes. Final question, and I don't ask this to very many people. It just came to my head now. If you could go back to yourself as a kid and say, I succeeded, I got on my bucket list, I did Afternoon Drive in New York, I got to do syndicated radio, I got to talk to many different people from the world of country radio, what would you tell your former younger self?
What would I think I would say, don't think you're going to get fired every single time you do something wrong. When by wrong, I don't mean like losing money for the company or, something like fireable. I mean, like every time you're like, oh, I didn't, submit this thing to a report that I was supposed to do, or whatever it is, like to think that every single little thing is that, oh, that's it, I'm done, to kind of chill, don't sweat the small stuff, I guess is kind of what I would tell myself. Just enjoy it. I think that I've been somebody that I've been lucky enough to know people and be around people pretty much my entire life that were kind of the take in the moment as it's happening. So I think I've done that, but I think putting so much pressure on myself to be perfect.
No, that makes total sense. It makes total sense because whether you're on air or I was a producer and a board op behind the scenes, we put so much pressure on ourselves to succeed when a lot of times we should be a little more relaxed and just try to go with the flow in certain moments.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just radio. It's like, I remember I was stressing out about something and I just happened to be having, like, I got a phone call. I was at my mom's house and my mom was an RN. And so I'm like, oh, I totally, I said the name of a client wrong and something that I recorded and I have to, and the client heard it. They didn't check or whatever it was. And my mom could see me. He's like, she started laughing. He's like, you don't have stress. Like, stress is when you're driving home and you can't remember if you were supposed to give somebody 100 cc's and you accidentally gave them 400, or whatever. Like, you may have caused like bodily harm to someone. And my mother would never do that because she's, the greatest nurse ever. But you're like, oh yeah, like that stress, like it was like there are different levels. I know it's all relative, but
right.
It's just radio. It's just podcasting.
It is what it is. Just try to go with the flow, and
doesn't matter when the aliens get here. They're going to delete it all anyway, man. It doesn't matter when you save it.
Never heard that one before.
That's the first thing they're going to do. You have not seen Men in Black? I mean, that's the first
No,
thing
I have. No, I have. I'm just saying that.
You're like, what was I stressed about? They just deleted everything.
Oh, man. That's a great way to end. Jesse, Addy, this was fun. It was great catching up. I mean, we never really saw each other when we were in the building, but we were kind of in the building at the same time. So it was nice to see you, actually.
Yeah. Well, the AM guys don't, they don't have time to hang out because you're on the air so much. They got like, oh, I'm playing 3 songs in a row. I could wander around. You could not. You're like,
Well, I used to see the
Stress.
music. I used to see the music guys kind of wandering around, not you, but other people, and I'd be like, "Wait a minute, they're always out in the hallway," and I'm like,
oh,
and
yeah,
even
it's a great gig.
and that was the weird thing because like I'd be sitting because I'm sure you saw it. We had that dinky small studio, and then the big one right next to it where we run syndication out of, and I'd be like, I never leave this dark room for 6 hours. A lesson to everybody in radio. Patience is a virtue in the business.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Jesse, thanks for coming on. This was fun.
Good to catch up.
All right, welcome back to episode 18. That's Nick Fodera. That's Kyle Hirshon. I'm Nick Morgasen. We're getting ready to finish it up as Kyle tries to keep his eyelids open. Don't get me wrong; he's worked a long day, so he deserves to sleep. But that was a great interview with Jesse Addy. I got to spend a lot of time with him. I don't know where he's going next in his radio career. It was very interesting, by the way, his story with Blake Shelton, and he had a very funny story with him at the Country Music Awards, which, if you missed that, go back and watch it again on the replay. So, all right, now it's time. It's time to make an announcement, Nick. Are you ready? Oh, are you at the edge of your seat, huh? Okay. So, let's tell a quick story before that. So when Kyle and I worked at the radio station, we got to know each other well. We eventually worked on a lot of shows together, including the weekends, including our funny stories with Rudy. And we started talking. I was doing a show with one of our other colleagues, Izzy, who's still at the radio station. And eventually Izzy couldn't do the show anymore. And I asked Kyle, I said, Kyle, come explore the wild world of Facebook live videos, even though Kyle somehow keeps ending up in Facebook jail. Anyway,
Can't help it. It's better than regular jail.
That's true.
Yeah, big time.
Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, thanks, Zuckerberg.
So we started doing our shows together, like you heard earlier in the episode. And then obviously life changes happen, and shows stop. How long ago, Kyle, did I start reaching back out to you?
I think
Roughly.
I would say roughly a little over a year ago.
And we were talking a lot still, even when you were working.
Yeah.
So then I said, "Hey, Kyle, do you miss doing the podcast?" And
I was like, "Yeah."
So I told him the stuff that Nick and I and our other colleague Tom, we were developing this podcast network, and we'll come out with it here if I can find my little slide. Then this happened.
Yay! Yeah. So yeah, the Hirsh show is coming back for season 2. Very excited for it. We're gonna hopefully bring in some really cool people to talk to, and we'll see what we can bring out. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Welcome aboard. Let me be the first to welcome you to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network.
Woo! I told Kyle, I said I knew it was going to happen at some point. I said we're going to be back together, getting into shenanigans all over again.
Yeah.
And we don't have any contract riders about brown M&Ms or full public nudity. So if you're looking for those things, you may want to switch to another podcast.
Well,
Yeah,
hey,
you have to.
don't scare him away yet. He hasn't done anything.
Damn it.
But let's put it this way. He's done some great interviews already. Actually, if you're a Dream Street fan, and just if you want to get an idea of what the podcast is like already, Greg Rapono, I think is his name, or Raposo, right, Kyle? As Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah. I interviewed some interesting people. You and I interviewed the executive producer of The Weakest Link.
Oh, Aaron Solomon. Yeah. And then the puppeteer.
Yeah, Noel McNeil, who I think it was either today or yesterday, he posted something along the lines of getting to direct an episode of Sesame Street.
Yes. And were there any others? I can't even remember. Oh, you had
Mark Summers.
That was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I loved Mark.
I remember watching that. That was pretty cool.
So there's
I
more.
loved Mark Summers.
there's more of that to come along the way. I forgot to put the handles in, but it's at the Hirsh Show, basically everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't know. You're on TikTok? We're not. Because Nick knows my long stance on TikTok.
As in avoid like the plague. But still, as for Nick and myself, we're not going anywhere. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Writes Words. You can follow him at N Morgasen Radio. You
And Kyle at K Hirsk on Twitter and the Hirsh Show. So yes. So
you can follow the show at.
There we go. I like it.
There we go.
So basically,
yes,
starting in March, the show will be showing up on our Empty the Bench. Oh my God, podcast network.
Empty the bunch tonight.
Exactly. I think I'm losing it too. Yes. So it'll show up on the Empty the Bench podcast network YouTube page, and there'll be plenty of great interviews. We're working on some behind the scenes, including one that I have up my sleeve that Kyle might know about, a certain supermarket game show.
We're working on that though. Don't give it away though. But still.
Yeah.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe this page. Make sure you follow us on the podcast network itself at Twitter at ETB Network. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/BeyondTheBench1. That's also our Twitter handle. So yeah, that'll do it for us for episode 18 of Beyond the Bench. So for Nick Morgasen, Kyle Hirshon, I'm Nick Fodera. Good night, everybody. See you back on the bench.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week for episode 19.
See ya.